You're listening to Rise to Your Purpose, a personal and spiritual development podcast for female entrepreneurs with a mission.
We're your hosts, Brandie and Natalie. All right, everyone, welcome back to this episode of Rise to Your Purpose. So I am here with my friend Heather Tucker. We have been able to just get connected through online and supporting each other and what we're doing in business. And you guys, she is amazing. Like, I get so inspired by watching her and following her, and she is already just with like personal messages and things that we've had inspired me and helped me in a lot of different ways. And so I was excited that we were connecting, and I was like, we should do a Rise to Your Purpose podcast. So she's going to be sharing with you guys today. We're going to be talking a lot about mindset, confidence, but she really specializes though too with mindset, not only helping you overcome like weight loss issues, but overall confidence and relationships and sex, you guys. So that was actually, I will be honest, that was actually how we first connected. Was I was seeing and hearing about her program that she does with helping with relationships. And I thought that was really cool. I haven't seen anybody doing that or promoting that. And so just getting to see how we connected in that way. So I'm excited for you guys to hear from her. Heather, I would love for you to introduce yourself. I know you're a mindset coach to queens, as you say. And so tell us a little bit more just about I'd love to just hear your journey, like kind of where did it start? How did you step into this? So just kind of go with it today and take us on your journey, and we'll talk more about how we can help these girls level up in their confidence and in their mindset that will then, I know, trickle into all areas of their life.
Amen. I would love to. So do you want me to go far back, like really far back, or
whatever you think that is going to, I think, the best that will tell us how you got to where you are now. So it depends on how far, that's up to you, how far back you want to go. So.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I grew up in a Christian home. So I'll just start there because I know
yes,
your following is filled, right, with born again Christian women. So my dad is Jewish, and his whole side of the family is Jewish. My mom, born again Christian, she actually was raised by missionaries, so very strict Baptist. My dad is, I think they call it a Reformed Jew, so he never went to temple or anything like that, but he never went to church with us either, except on Christmas and Easter. So I was raised in the church. And as a young girl, and then coming into, getting my boobs and blossoming into a woman and starting to become aware of my body, one of the first things I remember, this was, I think, sixth or seventh grade, I want to say. My dad started to say things to me like, you better not eat that or you'll get fat. Mm. And before that, I just ate like whatever. And my sister and I were super active. We were always on the soccer team and like t-ball. And then as we got older, softball. And then I got into like dance and all these different areas. So it never went on me. Like I was just like super, super active, And then when I got like all the hormones were changing and everything, and he started to say things like that to me, that actually really hit my mind. Because I started to notice in the dressing room of PE, I don't know if you're old enough where you used to have to change in front of people, but that was like super embarrassing. And I remember all the girls like looking around at everyone to see what everyone's body looked like. And then there was the mean girls. And I remember my mom wouldn't let me shave my armpits for like a long time, like armpits and legs. And I started my period at 11, and so everything started early for me. And so I remember being in the locker room, and this one really mean girl was like, ew, oh my God, like you need to shave. And I was like, And so from like that time, it was either 6th or 7th grade, I just became super hyper aware of what I looked like. And I was also very shy back then, very introverted by nature. And so if I didn't feel loved, accepted, approved, if I could tell somebody didn't want to be my friend, I literally would look down on the ground, wouldn't even make eye contact a lot as a young child. And then that went into high school. And then even like some of my adulthood, when I knew that someone was starting to approach and we were going to like walk by each other, I just automatically would look down. I just couldn't stand the feeling of rejection and not being approved. So that's where that started from. And then my parents got divorced when I was 17. So I think I was a junior at that time. And everything that we had been taught as far as not having sex before marriage and like saving yourself, and my parents both were very, very protective of what we watched on TV, what we listened to on the radio. I mean, we were a Baptist church, so that was like super, super, super strict. We couldn't even wear jeans in church. Like, I don't know what everyone's background was, but like if we went in without a super, super nice Easter Sunday kind of dress on every single week, like the older people, the elders would look down on us like, why are you wearing that? Yeah. Go change. Like, go home and change and then come back, you know? So when my parents got divorced, my mom actually moved us in with her boyfriend, and I got super confused. I was like, what is happening? You have been teaching us our entire lives that we should save ourselves for marriage. I know you're having sex, Mom. Like, what is happening? Come to find out, during this time, she came clean and said that her and my dad actually did have sex before marriage for almost 17 years. I thought that she was a virgin. She told my sister and I that. So she came clean, and she said that she had lied about that. So from that point on, like, I went rogue, Natalie.
Like, I'm throwing it all out the window.
So freaking rogue. Like, I was a virgin all the way until I was 17. Most of my friends, they started having sex at like 14 and 15.
Same.
Super young. And so I was like the oddball. And I was the person that other people in high school were like, don't invite Heather to a party. Don't ask her to drink. Don't ask her to try and smoke pot. She's going to say no. She's a super, super nice church girl. Like, don't even, you know? And then when my parents got divorced and they could tell I was going rogue, then they started to invite me to all the things. And that, see, I'm feeling this right now. Like, all of a sudden I just got goosebumps, because I went from like years of not being accepted and being the shy girl to then when I went rogue and all of a sudden being accepted, and then people wanted to be my friend and they wanted to invite me to the parties. Like, that felt so good. That felt so good to me. And so I soaked it up, because when my parents got divorced, my dad left, he got remarried, we barely saw him. And so then I was like feeling, vulnerable and rejected from a man. And so I wanted to replace that, right? There's so many stories that we hear that women are rejected and they're just trying to replace what they lost from their father with a sexual relationship. And so that's what happened. Like, I saw my mom, she admitted all that, my dad left, and I felt alone, and I just felt so sad. I remember sitting in the corner in this house that my mom was staying with her boyfriend, and I remember just sitting there all by myself because she was at her job, and my sister was like off doing something else, and I just remember feeling like the loneliest that I've ever felt. And I remember feeling almost like disconnected from myself, because I would be walking around and I felt so numb from the pain of my dad leaving and from being lonely. It almost was like I saw myself walking around outside my body. It was like the weirdest thing. But during that time, my mom's mom, so my grandma, she saw, she was the one that I told you was a missionary. And she's always been super, super close with me. And so during that time, she saw how heartbroken I was and how lonely I was. And so she would come and pick me up, and she would take me to her house, and her house became a safe haven for me. She had Christian music playing. She gave me my first Bible, which I didn't read, right away. But she was very, very loving, very accepting, very like I could talk to her about whatever was bugging me. She never judged me. You know, she was very, very understanding. And that was my first experience from somebody that was a born-again Christian that actually showed the way that Jesus loves, not the condemning, you know, judging, you shouldn't be doing that kind of way. Because for a long time, I thought everyone that was a Christian was like super, super judgy.
Yeah.
And so probably like a year after that is when I became a believer. Like I grew up in the church, I had the head knowledge, but I didn't really fully surrender where it actually was sunk into my heart and I actually felt God and I felt his presence and I felt his spirit come in. I want to say that was like 18 and a half or 19 around there. And then from there, I actually was kind of like, you know, I washed clean, right? Didn't have sex with anybody. And for maybe like 2 years. And then I met my ex-husband who was very, very abusive. I was only with him for 4 years. My 2 older boys who are now 24 and 21. So they are from that marriage.
Okay.
In that marriage, the only reason why I even was open to being with this guy is that he showed up the first time I met him in a God's Gym shirt. Do you remember those? And it was like the strong man.
Oh, yeah,
Instead of Gold's Gym, it said God's Gym. So he showed up in that shirt and he was like playing all this Christian music in his car. I thought he was a believer. We got married. Like 2 months after that, I found out he was not. He actually lied. And I was still trying to be my good little girl Christian self, you know, going to church, listening to my Christian worship music and stuff. And he hated it. Like he literally would take my music and throw it out the window. And he was just, so I can't even, like, I don't really want to talk about the kind of abuse, but it was bad.
Yeah.
4 years of being told you suck, you know, why are you even like going to church? God knows who you are. Look at all the stuff that you've done.
Yes.
Like I feel like
and again,
huh?
You're hitting that rejection again, just now in a different way, or crazy.
Yep. Yeah. So that 4 years, it like took me down. I lost myself. I literally did not know who I was at all. His love and the fact that I didn't want to get divorced because I was raised to not get divorced and I wanted to make it work and I wanted to make it work for the kids and I didn't want them to have to go through the pain because I had seen it with my friends, their parents. And I really wanted to like spare them from that and I didn't want to have to start over and all those kinds of things, but he left and it turned out to be the best thing because I remember reading a scripture about, and I can't remember where it is, but it's like, God will rescue you from something that like you can't rescue yourself from or something like that, something along those lines. And it was like, I stayed in spite of friends' advice and even a couple of pastors that were like, you don't have to live in an abusive situation. But I just felt like I needed to because I thought that's what God, you know, wanted for me. So it took him leaving for me to be rescued, you know. But from that, then I met Chuck. So Chuck is my now husband who I've been married to for, well, we've been together 20 years and then married 19. Married 19. When I met him, I was broken. Like I was broken AF. Like I was like, oh my God. And he came into our lives and he was a rescuer personality.
Okay.
And I soaked that up because I had been beaten down for so long and I needed somebody like that to even feel alive, you know? And so we got together and my ex-husband ended up asking if Chuck would adopt the boys because he wanted to be free of the financial burden and all the different things.
Wow.
And so Chuck was like, are you sure? And he's like, yes. So he adopted the boys when, let's see, I want to say it was like a year or so after we had gotten married. And so that happened. And then I really wanted to show Chuck like what the experience would be like to have his own kid. And so, because he was so good, like he was so good with mine, and I really just wanted him to experience it from like beginning until end. And so I decided to get pregnant. We went through 2 miscarriages, and those were both at about 4.5 months. Very, very traumatic. Like one actually came out on the toilet. It's like disgusting. I never saw it. Chuck saw it. So it scarred him, I'm sure. After that, we got pregnant with Josh, and Josh is now, he's going to be 16 in January. So all my 3 boys are like older. And where our marriage stuff started is like, because our sex was bomb. Like when we first got together, oh my God, it was good. And like we had no problem setting up the boys in front of a movie and like running upstairs, you know, like we were rabbits. We would do it everywhere. You know, I would go down on him in a parking lot. Like we were super adventurous. And then all that pain and the trauma and like the pregnancy with Josh was horrible. Like I actually got so sick and so dehydrated that I went to the hospital, and then I had to come home with a PICC line, and then Chuck became my nurse. So there's just been I mean, just to talk about all the stuff, you know, that like we've been through, it's no wonder that we had stuff, like had problems.
You're thinking like, I'm sure so far there are women listening to this that can relate to parts of your story, if not all of your story, who have gone through traumatic events, who have gone through abuse, who have gone through not feeling good enough, you know, who have gone through issues with their marriage, like all the things. Like there's just so many little things that's like, yes. And then I appreciate, and I think they would say thank you, like, because it's so hard for, I think, us as women to be that vulnerable and talk about that and share those stories with others. And so to like even hear those parts is like, okay, I'm not the only one, you know, like there's certain things that we can all see how we relate to each. It almost makes me think of like a Tyler Perry movie or something where they all come together at the end and they're like, we're here to band together. And so
yes. Oh my God.
like, yes,
I love that.
You know, you sharing those things, like I know that can't be easy, but helping us to like be able to relate and see like, okay, there is, you know, light at the end of that tunnel if anyone's going through certain things like that now, or if they've dealt with that, they know, you know, and just seeing how it's cool too for me to see, like, as you're telling your story, I can see where God has shown up in your life too. And like, even if it was points where you weren't sure, it's like, oh, there he was, like, and figuring it out. So yeah, so continue. Sorry.
Okay. So let's see. So then we had Josh, our little miracle baby. And the first couple of months, we were like, because we'd come through so much trauma, we were so worried about SIDS and like the death. And so we barely slept for the first couple of months. Always had the ear. I felt like the ear was to him like all the time. Chuck was so engrossed in, you know, Josh, which I loved because my ex-husband was not like that. I'd had to do everything before. Chuck was a very involved parent. He had no problem getting up in the middle of the night and feeding and changing and all of those things. So I was very, very appreciative that God had finally given to me somebody that showed me what, you know, love in action, you know, looked like. But then when I was released to have sex, okay, now I didn't share this before, but if anyone's heard of the 5 love languages, if you guys have ever taken that test, my love language is physical touch and words of affirmation, which you can probably tell already, the words of affirmation. But physical touch is like big for me. And so when I was released to have sex, of course, I'm like, hello, you know, let's go. Yeah. And so I would like approach him the same way that had worked for us for a long time. And all of a sudden, it was not working. I'm like, what the F is happening? I don't understand. And then I started to feel super rejected by my own husband, my own freaking husband, who before Josh was fine. Like, so I didn't understand like what was going on with him. Like, you know, did the miscarriage thing impact him so much? Did like anything else impact him? And so I started to ask. I'm very vocal, so I have no problems like, hey, like, what's happening? Are you okay? Like, do you need to talk about anything? Like, all of that. Like, I have no problems, you know, like figuring stuff out, you know, because I'd rather it be out so then we can actually work on it, right? So I don't like to like not know. I hate that.
Open communication, right?
No, it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy not understanding. Like, even over the years as friendships have left and there's no explanation, you're like, what happened? And I still don't know. I don't know. So I would ask Chuck, you know, and at first, like, I shared with him, dude, like, what's up? You just hurt my feelings. Like, why are you pushing me off of you? I don't get it. Like, what did I do wrong? Am I too fat? Like, do you not find me attractive? And he kept saying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with you. I still find you attractive. I still love you. I would say it all the time. I don't know why. But nothing was getting fixed. Like, I was being like alone again, and like my sexual energy was like bouncing off the walls, you know? And I felt like I was going crazy. I'm like, I need this friggin' release. Like, I need this release. I need to feel you. I need to like come together and feel the soul connection that only you and I have ever had. Even though I've had multiple partners before, like, you are the only one. So I was like addicted to that too.
Yeah.
That feeling of closeness, that feeling of the God feeling, even the spiritual feeling of having sex with him. It felt so good. And to all of a sudden not have that, and then to just not even like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was just like, ah. So that went on for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
12 years. And of course we would have sex, but it was like so sporadic. It was like 4 months, 6 months. We never went for a whole year, thank God. But it was like very, very long periods of time. And then in between there, you know, there would be insecurities, and my confidence was going lower and lower and lower. I would be standing in front of the mirror more, I noticed. And I'm like, it must be me. So I'd be like picking apart my body, like, okay, I see some jiggle here and I see some jiggle here, and I got my stretch marks and I got my dimples in my butt, and I'd be like just totally judging myself. It had to be me, you know? And so then I would ask him like over and over, like, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? And then he was like, no, no, no. And then like I started to actually record in a calendar. I don't know if you've ever done this, if you've ever like gone for long periods of time without sex, but like I remember circling the calendar, and I would be like, okay, here's when we had sex last. And I'd be like, oh my God, it's been like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. And so then I thought to myself, Chuck would appreciate knowing. Maybe he doesn't know.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't know. So I would take my calendar to him and I'd be like, look, babe, like, here's the last time we had sex. Like, and I did that a lot. I did this a lot. And it brought up the same conversation over and over. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And then I started to think, like, is he gay? like I was really like, what's happening? Are you attracted to men? Like, you know, I'm just trying to figure this shit out, you know? And so, so that happened. And then it got to the real desperate thing. And I was like, okay, if that calendar thing's not working, maybe what would work is if I shared with him scriptures. So I took it upon myself to share with him the scriptures, like, look, this is what God says. We are not supposed to not have sex unless we both agree, and it's only for a certain period of time, right? And he's like, and I said, and I don't agree. I'm like, we have not come to that agreement. So I thought taking off from it being from me and actually showing it from like the God perspective, I thought that that would fix it, and it still didn't fix it. So then we went to counseling, and it got a little bit better because by that time, I think this was like around year 16. of us being together, I was like, oh, dude, I'm done. Like, I was ready for a divorce. I was like, I can't even do this. I started to think like, dude, I'm in my 40s. The average lifespan is like 80, maybe 80, 90, if we're healthy, and God doesn't decide to take us home early. I'm like, 40 more years of this? I'm like, there is no freaking way that I am living like this for another 40 years. Like, no. So I did say that to him, and then he agreed to go to counseling, which we found a Christian counselor. We went to him for maybe like 4 or 5 months. Things started to get a little bit better, so that was like good. But then we stopped going, and then it reverted. It reverted back, and then I had the old check back, and I was like, come on.
So I'm like dying to know then, like, what was it like that? Because I know I've posts and like things are amazing, and you stepped into this area of like coaching women and helping them. And so
yeah. Well, what ended up happening was I felt God actually very gently. He didn't scream this at me, but I just felt something in my spirit say, you know what? You just have to let this go. Like, you have to just work on yourself. You have to make like working on yourself, because you can only control what you can control. Let Chuck go, allow him to have his own process. And God actually showed me the verse in Proverbs, I think it is, where it talks about it's better to live on a roof, the corner of a roof, than to live with a nagging wife. And when I read that, Natalie, it hit me like a big lightning bolt. And I was like, oh crap, like that's what I've been doing for 12 years, is just dun, 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 like over and over and over and over. And so I realized, oh gosh, I'm a huge part of the problem. I need to stop. Like, I need to stop. I need to stop complaining. I need to stop nagging. And I just need to pull back and only focus on myself. And so around that time, which I think was like 2010, I had my weight loss journey. So I lost over 100 pounds. So that was 2010 to 2011. From 2011 up until 16 or 17, I worked for a network marketing company selling some weight loss products, which is some of the stuff that I was using. And so I was starting to show my body more online, and the results and that kind of thing. And so I was getting a lot of men attention during that time, because I was showing my body, and I started to get like private messages and things like, oh my God, your husband must have sex with you all the time. And I would be thinking like, no, God, I wish, you know. But it was like these men knew exactly. It was like they knew exactly what to say. It was like they had to have known that something wasn't right. I don't know how they knew, but it was like they just knew. I don't know how it was. But because of my lack, I did soak that up. And so I did a lot of flirting back in those days. Nothing ever happened, but I did a lot of flirting. And that flirting and feeling wanted kind of like by those dudes, it got me through that time period. I became really focused on my work online, and I was getting to know so many amazing women. My work and the connection with the woman got me through a very long, hard period in our marriage, because it was like I was helping other people, and so that was like filling me up. And then the love that I was getting from the woman that I was helping, because it felt good like in their own journey.
Right.
And so then they would compliment and say, thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. You have no idea what you've done for me. And so that became almost like this addiction and like this way of feeling better. And so I lived on Facebook a lot, because if I turned Facebook off, then I was faced with my actual life of my husband in one side of the house and me over here on the other side of the house, and us just not connecting at all. So then 2017-ish, and this is where the confidence starts to come in, is like I had lost my weight. For a while, I still saw myself as fat, because that's a thing. You still look at yourself and you feel like you're inside your fat body still. It's like the weirdest thing ever. I don't even know how to explain it to someone unless they've had a weight loss journey and they're like, oh yeah, like I totally get it. But for a long time, I still did not feel confident in myself, even though I had had this wonderful health journey and I felt more energetic and I felt better, but like I was still looking down at people and I was still not sure of myself and I was still looking for approval in other people and all that kind of stuff. So 2017, I got invited to a dance class, and it was a local dance class here, and it was for heels. So it was like burlesque, sexy style. And I had never done anything like that before. Like when I was in school, it was hip hop. I always was on the dance team with hip hop and groove, you know, and like just different things. And like I took some ballet and, you know, some of that kind of stuff. But heels, never. And because I felt like I was in the body size where I could probably like get into a lot of the positions and things like that, I decided to go and try it out. Oh my God, Natalie, that first class, I have never walked away feeling so empowered after doing something than I did from that class. And so I started to go weekly. That went for about a year. And then I decided to start teaching dance, because as I was showing my coming out of my cocoon story and like being this butterfly and like my confidence was rising and I was showing people my dance routines that I was learning, you know, at the studio and stuff, they're like, God, I wish we had a class like that around here. Like no one teaches that. And even if they did, I don't even know if I'd be brave enough to go. Right. Like I am still in this body size that I don't like. I don't like myself. I'm not confident. My husband would probably make fun of me. Like, so they were just like not feeling it, you know? Yeah. And so that was like, maybe I should start teaching like what I know. Like I'm not a professional dancer, but like I know a lot of stuff because I've been going already for a year. Right. And so I decided to develop a program called Unleash Her. So that's actually been around for a while. So Unleash Her is like a little mini program or course or, you know, whatever you want to call it, where I actually show women through some really inner deep subconscious reprogramming how to dive way deep inside and to let go of our past conditionings from the church, from how our parents said, don't do that, it's not ladylike, it's not Christian-like, things like that. But those kind of things have actually taken away from us as Christian women to fully step into our own power and to fully be okay that God still approves of us walking in this female empowerment and being confident. Because if we can get to our higher self, oh my God, it gives me goosebumps, because if we can get into our higher self, your business becomes unfreaking stoppable. And not even just the business, but like your life, your relationships, like everything is impacted. Because if you show up fully confident, fully secure, not needing anyone else's approval, being fully you, expressing yourself in the way that feels natural to you, right? And that could be through dance, how you show up in the bedroom, how you communicate with your husband, how you communicate with your team, the other leaders on your team. I mean, like it impacts everything when you're fully showing up and you're not second guessing yourself. I'm getting so many freaking goosebumps right now. You like have no idea. This is so
speaking the truth right now.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. So yeah, so I started Unleash Her, and in there I take women through this process, and then I also teach them dance. So as I'm teaching the little mini lessons, we're actually securing it through a dance routine that I'm actually teaching, and then I actually like get them comfortable with touching their body, getting their hands close to their boobs, close to their privates, because if you're a born again Christian like me, all of that was a no, 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 and you just felt so dirty about yourself, and even like stepping into that, you know, we've always been taught that it's kind of like the wrong, you know, thing to do. So I love that course. It's like my
name too. It totally fits.
Yeah, so I love that. then from Unleash Her and all that work, my friends like that were in that course, because as I was teaching, I just started to lightly touch on some of my relationship stuff. And they're like, have you ever thought about sharing your marriage story online and helping other women with their marriage? And, you know, speaking to other women that are also sexless, and talking to other women that would really like to understand why their husband doesn't understand them, even though they're verbalizing it. And they're like, why do I feel like my words are hitting up a brick wall? I just don't understand, you know? And like really feeling secure, showing up in the bedroom, and, you know, stepping into like your sexual power in the bedroom, because I've really come like so into that. I don't even need Chuck's approval anymore of like what I wear to the bedroom. If I want to bring a toy to the bedroom, I don't even ask him anymore, because like if I want it at that time, I'm just bringing it. And that took a lot for me to actually step into that, because for a long time, and I think it's just how I was raised, it was like the guy was in charge of that, and like the guy was supposed to be the instigator and the initiator, and the guy was supposed to be the suggester and bringing all the fun things. And I just sort of laid there and like did whatever, you know? For like years, I just sort of like was just laying there, just, you know, you're in control. But it got to this place where I'm like, I don't want to wait anymore. I feel so good about myself. I feel super sexy, and I want to have this experience with you, husband. So I'm just going to start doing all the things that I've been wanting you to do for years, and I'm just going to take the controls. And you're gonna just I'm showing up, and you're just gonna like be a participant, and you're gonna be happy, you know, about it. And you know what? He actually loves it. He actually loves it, because his personality type is not the instigator and not the initiator. He actually, it's almost like he told me this one time, God, where has this woman been?
Yeah.
Where has this woman been? He's like, I almost feel like I was waiting for her to come out, you know? But I didn't know if she was in there. And so he's like, God, you know, and so he loved it. He loved it. So from the marriage stuff on our end, as we started to work on ourselves, Sexify Her was born. So that's my relationship and sex course, where I basically go through, and we do also a lot of subconscious reprogramming with belief work, because a lot of times we still have stuff from the church, and we're not fully like released to be ourselves in our marriage. And so I also do a lot of like belief work in that program too. And then for the dancing part in that program, I'm actually teaching strip teases and toys. Like I actually teach a dance that involves toys, where you're putting the toys in yourself, and like it gets like, it's pretty raunchy, that program. It's racy, raunchy, like whatever you want to call it. But it's like super, super sexual. Like it's super, super sexual. But we have so much fun, because like the majority of the women that have joined that particular program are also born again Christians that, like me, were raised to feel like sex was dirty, and they didn't know like how to get comfortable with orgasming. There's actually a couple of women in there that have kids that never have orgasmed. And so I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest. I didn't know until I started working with them. But then it became my mission to help them have an orgasm, because I'm like, oh my God, you have to know what it feels like. It's so good.
And I didn't know that's possible either.
So good. You have to know what it feels like. So in that program, I actually am helping a lot of women that have never had an orgasm too, to like, here's where you touch, here's what this will do. So I do like a lot of anatomy like stuff in that particular course. And then of course there's the dancing, and there's the sexual confidence, and there's, you know, the body confidence, and so much goes into both of those programs, Unleash Her and Sexify Her. And I think that's it. So like the last 3 years, definitely Chuck and I have gotten better in our relationship. My confidence continues to grow. I continue, you know, to show up as my best self. Even if we have hard days, hard months, hard, you know, years, like I'm not allowing myself to go backwards. And that's big. Like once you've stepped into your power, like literally, ladies who are listening, don't allow him or her to take it back. from you. Like once you step in, stay there, even if it makes someone uncomfortable, which it will, because they're not there yet, but they're going to see you as an example, and then that's something that they can aim for. And so that's how I show up online. Not everyone has the motivation. Not everyone has my confidence. Not everyone has, you know, this sex stuff down. Like not everyone does, but it doesn't mean I'm going to hide my power in that. If anything, I'm going to show it even more because I want to help other women get set free in these areas, because I want you guys to have like the most powerful, amazing, like spirit-filled life that you could possibly have. So
yeah, I love that. Like, in that in itself, like I was just writing down different things that really popped out and stood out to me, because I think it relates to everything. Like you were saying, like when you unleash her, like when you become your highest self and you fully step into, we talk all the time about being authentic, and like people wonder, like we can teach you strategies, we can give you tips and tricks and things like that. But honestly, those are all going to be great things that'll help you. But really the people who really go far and seem like everybody's just coming to them, and we talk about like, you know, attracting people, is because you're showing up as your highest self and you're being yourself. Like you're being fully authentically you and having and conveying that confidence. And that is like magnetic to people. Like that's what people want to, because they're seeing you and feel like they have you. And I know that when I have felt my best and been at my best, that is when my business has been the best. You know?
yes.
And so it all goes hand in hand. And then the same with like that confidence then carries over into other parts of your life, into the bedroom, relationships, like whatever it may be, your mindset, like all those things. Because then you start to feel like I can conquer anything, you
Right.
know? And I was actually just reading today, because I think you said something too, like it can be, I know that's definitely me, and something that I battle and constantly remind myself of, because I was always that girl who like needed the words of affirmation. I needed to feel like I had that approval, that people were going to like me, like all those things. And so as I was stepping out, kind of like you were saying, like stepping out in my business, showing up more online, like I had to kind of push through those, because I was like, well, what are these people are going to say or think, like people who think they know me or whatever. And so I think that that's so powerful. And then I read in scripture too, talking about like how we are conquerors, like Jesus calls us conquerors. And that when we have the Spirit and we're working in alignment with him and really being who he's called us to be and stepping into that, like we can conquer anything. And so I just love that you shared that story, and you're showing that you've conquered, you're showing that you have that confidence and stepping into your high self, and now you're helping other women do that. And I think a big thing too, because I learned this and we were kind of talking about like, and I've shared this on Facebook, like when Skylar and I were having issues with our marriage and just like not communicating well, like it was like, what happened, you know? And that was a big thing for me, is I had to realize, and like I talked to a counselor, and she just mainly someone just that was from our church. So it wasn't like an official thing or anything, but, you know, and she said, why don't you like work on yourself first? And it was almost like I was putting all these expectations on him and waiting for him to do. And so like you said, like almost taking that initiative and myself and working on me instead of trying to be the naggy wife or trying to
Yes.
let him to do all these things and think it needs to be him working on everything too. So I think those are definitely like really, really great lessons. And again, that like kind of contributes to everything. When your business isn't working the way you feel like it should be, look at yourself instead of like blaming others or team or upline or whoever. Like it's easy to blame. Like we have to start with ourselves and see like, where can we become better? What can we invest in? Do we need to work on ourselves more, work on that confidence? So we kind of got to hear like that, you know, what you offer then too, like if those women that are out there who wanting to step into more of that, I love your approach to it. It's definitely different than just like, here, read a book. And
I mean, I am an author. I've written one book on my weight loss journey. So I share like,
what's that book called?
so that's called Damn You Weight Loss Plateaus.
Ooh.
And I called it that because when I was trying to lose weight and in my most frustrating moments, I would step on the scale and I literally said that. I was like, damn you. Like I would be so mad. So it's more of like a funny, you know, it's like a funny, but like it's my whole freaking story and then all the strategies that I use. That's on Amazon.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So Damn You Weight Loss Plateaus. And then I am working on the Sexify Her book because I thought, you know what? Like there's other women out there outside of Facebook that I feel like could really benefit. And then if they want more of like the dancing stuff, then I'll be like, here's where you can join. Join the program.
Yeah. I love that. So I was to kind of wrap this up and kind of as we close out, maybe you could share then like with your weight loss, like what would be kind of, we'll do like a tip in each category. Like what is one tip or piece of advice that you'd give someone who's really struggled with their weight loss, who tried the fads, tried the diets, tried the pills, tried like all the things, and they feel like they're keep struggling with that? Has there been something besides, obviously sound like you definitely took great products as well, but that went alongside that helped you with that weight loss journey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the majority of my weight loss was not with a product. It was God showing me how to get in tune with how our bodies are actually created to feel hunger, to feel thirst, to feel when we've had enough. And so how I actually train women with my weight loss program, which is called Becoming Her. So I do have a coaching side of that goes with the book.
Okay.
And so I know I have so many things.
Yeah.
But I feel like women deal with different things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But getting so in tune with the body, I think a lot of it is, people are starting to talk about this more too. I hear the word intuitive. So if you look up the word intuitive, it's basically going inward and actually like feeling. So you're feeling more when you're hungry, and you're feeling more when it hits your stomach, and you're feeling when you're thirsty and things like that. And so it's more just going with how your body was created, you know, to be made. And with that is like helping with the emotional, you know, side of things, so that you're only eating when you're hungry, not when you're mad or sad or worried if COVID's going to get you, or you know, things like that. So that is like the main tip for weight loss is, you know, especially with the Christian women that you work with, I feel like if you get really in touch with, you know, looking in the scriptures and how God created us, I think just doing that is really, really going to help.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's been proven you don't need products. Products, I feel, this is my personal opinion because I've taken a crap ton of them and I've sold a crap ton of them. They only work when you use them. So like once you stop taking them, you could definitely gain your weight back if you've not changed your habits around food and your habits around exercise and things like that. So that's why I feel so strongly of like really getting in tune with the body and like listening and just doing what it's telling you to do. I feel like it'll just lead you, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense for sure. And then with, I feel like you did give us a lot, but okay, I know when you took that dance class, okay, so say they haven't started a dance class yet, they can come. They definitely need to come check out Unleash Her.
And by the way, my classes are beginner, and I'm talking like not just a beginner class that you would find in the studio, because the beginner classes in a studio, they're intermediate. I don't even know why they call them beginner. It's like beyond beginner. So I only give like 3 8 counts. You know, like I'm not giving a big long routine. It's very short, and I'm taking a lot of time, like showing what your body is doing and what you should be feeling, you know? Yeah. So that's what I love about, as far as my style of teaching, is like really, really, you know, helping the beginner, like the actual beginner.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it allows you to focus on, like you said, more of your other things that you're teaching as well, but allowing them to kind of step into something new. Mm-hmm. Done before, gain that comment, like, okay, I just did this, and that's gonna, I think it makes you feel better too, like, and kind of bring out that sassy side of you, probably.
It really does. I mean, the classes in itself inside Unleash Her, like, you will walk away feeling empowered, and like you seriously will feel unstoppable, and not just from the dance, but from the actual teachings in there, because confidence, we're not born with it, okay? So like when you see a confident person, what I need you to think of, women that are listening, is that person has worked on themselves to get to that place. Yes. So it's never natural. It's not a certain personality type. You know, if you've ever taken like the color code, I'm a blue, so I'm a party person. I love to bring the fun, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be confident when I do it. I might be looking around wondering what other people are thinking about what I'm doing, and I might be pulling back and shrinking back into myself because I might have got a look or something like that, you know? So confidence is something that is created. It's not something that is, you know, natural or that you're born with.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. And I think that helps with that comparison piece too, because thinking, oh, well, they just are gonna, that's just how they are. Like, it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could be the life of the party, but I have confidence where I'm like, but is this okay? You know, you're like questioning. Yeah. And so I always say, I'm like, I think they call us the extroverted introverts or whatever.
That's me too. Is that what you are?
Yeah, that's totally me.
Yeah. So like your recharging is probably getting quiet, yes. Right? Yeah. So whenever I go to like events, like especially when I was in network marketing and they'd be like crowds of people and everyone's screaming and cheering, like I love that part. Yeah. But then when everyone wanted to go to lunch after or go shopping after, I'd be like, I'll see you guys later. And I'd go back to my room and I'd nap or I'd read my Bible or I'd like meditate or something just so that I can get back to my center.
Yeah, Taylor calls it my me time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, I just need some time right now.
Yes.
Well, I think that I feel like we really covered a lot today and that just so many good nuggets in here. I mean, you guys, I hope you took notes or go back and like re-listen to this. And just even things like saying about like not going backwards and not allowing yourself to hide anymore. I think it's time for us. And I really do feel like God is calling like Christian women and Christian women in the business world, like to step out and rise up and let your light shine, because like she said, like she is taking something. I think this is a huge lesson too. Like she's sharing with you guys multiple programs and the solutions she has, because she has become a problem solver and realizing what her audience needs. And so she's been able to create based off her own experience and her own expertise, you know, what she, you know, how she's able to help people and create those things. And so if you're sitting here wondering like, well, what is my brand or how do I help people? What is my value? Well, start thinking about where have you done the work already? What are you already skilled in, or you have strengths in, or you're passionate about? And you can start creating things for that and seeing how can you show up and serve people from there. I think that's super powerful, and realizing like when we talk about creating multiple streams of income, it's not necessarily that you're creating all these things just to create them, but it's like you're serving one person, essentially, one audience. And now because of the different needs they have, like she had people sharing, hey, what about this? Or you're really good at this. So pay attention to those things as you're working in the online space, or as you're working with clients or teammates or customers, and seeing what else are you pulling out from there that, you know, you might see that later down the road, you also step into a new version of yourself alongside of what you do with your network marketing or in your business now. So
can I say something?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so along those lines, I have actually found our purpose comes from our pain. So like you gave advice on what your natural gifts are. Those are the things that are easy to talk about, but it's not always what people need. Mm-hmm. You know, so I want to also encourage the women too, like the painful stuff that you have come through, and now you come onto the other side of that, and now it's a little bit more natural for you. Understand that there's women out there that are in the middle of what you've already come through, and I really feel like God like has created our mission from our pain. Mm-hmm. And so that is where most of my offerings have come from, is, you know, things that have come from pain. And they were very uncomfortable to talk about too, you know, like confidence, my marriage, like to actually say I've been sexless for 12 years, like that was hard. That was really hard. I felt like I was going to throw Chuck under the bus or something. I don't want anyone to think bad thoughts, you know, about my husband. But like a lot of times we'll feel like a calling, mm-hmm. and we'll have resistance against it, right? That resistance, I want you guys to know, that resistance right there, what you're feeling scared of doing, is actually what you're supposed to be doing. Like God is showing that to you for a reason. So whatever you're being called to do, if you're feeling nervous, scared, unsure, that actually means do it, and do it scared. And the more that you do it, the easier that it's going to become. And then you won't actually have that resistance wall up, because then you would have busted through it, and now it's not even a thing. It's not even a...
No, I love how you said that, because that makes me think too of like how Brandie and I, and how Victorious Entrepreneurs Rising came about, Rise to Your Purpose, like all these things came about, and our Rise to Your Purpose program came from the pain of what we felt when we struggled in our business and what we were going through and all of those things. And then here came the program, here came God, our calling, like where we felt like our purpose was for why we had our businesses.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you guys.
And it was really cool that you just mentioned this. So today in our group about, who was I can't even remember the podcast but it was another podcast I was listening to. And she was talking about that same thing of like, when you feel like you have that calling, you're feeling that nudge or just like in your spirit, there's going to feel like this resistance. So it comes so much, or that where the enemy's going to try and like make you think all these things that like you shouldn't do that. And if he can't discourage you, he will try to distract you.
Yes.
And so she was saying like, don't let that distraction, like don't be distracted by everything else, or let that discouragement sink in, that resistance. You got to like take those steps to bust through it, because that your calling's on the other side of that, and more people that you can impact are on the other side of that.
That's so true. And then we have to remember too that the women that we're selling our stuff to, they're feeling resistance too, because they're wondering like, can I do it? Am I going to fail again? And so a lot of times when people say no, or they can't afford it, or I got to talk to my husband, or maybe next month, it's not that they're saying no to us, right, Natalie? We've had this conversation. Like, it's not that they're saying no to us or to our program. They're saying no to themselves, because they've either been abused or they failed before, or something in them is making them doubt themselves, where they're like, I don't think I could do this. And so that's where we have to meet them where they're at, and keep sharing our story and keep encouraging people. And at some point, the more that we go along and we're staying true to our mission, like they will come in. The timing is like their timing. Don't hold back. Like, just because people are saying no, like I talked to Natalie about this just like a week or two ago. I can't remember. But like there's been this period where women have not been saying yes, and I know that they could benefit. I know it. I feel it, because we've been talking about their story, and I'm like, oh my God, if you only knew, if you only said yes, and you came into the program and you started to do the work and you started to see and experience, then you'd be like, oh my God, like where has it been the whole time? You know what I mean? And then you'll be like, I wish I could have done it sooner. So you just have to understand that there's going to be periods of time like that. It's gotten better for me as I've talked to Natalie and I've kept pushing through and I keep sharing my message. I just had a couple of women today say yes. And that's after like a period of time of people saying no. And so I've really had God like saying, keep going, keep going, keep going. And like people like Natalie, keep going, keep going, keep going. And so it's true. Like, don't ever give up on the mission. Even if people don't buy, you're still impacting them in some way. Like in some way, they're feeling loved on, understood, valued, because you're sharing your story. And that in itself is like part of the work too.
Yeah, I love that. I think this has just been such an amazing podcast.
So fun.
I love it. So they can find you on Facebook, and we have you at Heather Tucker Motivates, and I know you're Heather Tucker too, just like your profile. So she is definitely someone easy, you guys, as you have listened today, easy to talk to. You can jump into her inbox and just totally start that conversation. And then if they would like to become a part of your programs, we're going to make sure that we put the information in the show notes. Anything else that you'd love to leave with our listeners today, or best ways for them to connect with you?
I don't know all of you, but I still love you. Like, I love women so much. And I just feel so passionate about helping. And I feel so passionate about you guys helping your people. So that's it. Like, I'm so thankful that I've been here and I was invited to be here. And it feels so great to have this conversation with you, Natalie, and to just be able to get out what has been bubbling inside. And I haven't even shared a lot of this stuff on my page. Like, some of it just came out today. So I'm actually feeling like kind of excited that a little bit more of my story got leaked out, which is pretty cool.
And I think it's like perfect for this because that's literally what Rise to Your Purpose is about. And I feel like that's what you're doing. Like you're literally rising up, stepping into your purpose and showing up. So go follow her. You guys are going to be like totally, like she said, motivated, inspired. You're going to learn a lot and check out those programs for sure. But thank you so much for taking time out and speaking with us today. And we will see you guys on our next episode of Rise to Your Purpose.
Thanks, Natalie.
Rise to Your Purpose will be a weekly podcast. Our hope is to inspire and educate you on your entrepreneurial journey to help you fuel your passions, live your purpose, and build a business that works for you.
You can subscribe, rate, and comment on any podcast app. We'd love to hear from you. It makes us so happy to see you tuning in to the show. So if you're on Instagram, let us know what your favorite part of the show was by taking a screenshot of the episode you tuned into and tag us at Live Victorious on your story. Let us know what your favorite quote or takeaway from the episode was so that we can be inspired to keep creating content like this for you.
To learn more about us and get involved with our community of mission-driven entrepreneurs, join our Facebook group, Purpose Partners, where we partner together in faith and business. So until next time, build a business that works for you and stay in alignment with your mission.